morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, well. How's everybody today? Oh, well. When you're a kid, paperwork is something you do in the bathroom after you take a dump. When you're an adult, it's something you have to do continuously. Ugh. It's exhausting. Being an adult is exhausting, and I can't believe all the years I spent wanting to achieve this. I mean, when you're a kid, you have no fucking clue what it means to be an adult, because you're sheltered. Children are sheltered, and this is a good thing. The problem is that being an adult sucks. It is exhausting. It is frustrating. It has a few perks. I will admit that it has a few perks, but otherwise, no. No. Yeah. Oh, well. Oh, yeah. So that's my rant in the morning. Bitching and whining about having to be an adult, having to be mature, having to be responsible. Yeah. Okay then. Let's talk about something relevant and important, shall we? Hey, yeah. That damn guitar all the time. What's happening with this? Why? Yeah. Oh, keeps coming out, doesn't it? Well, anywho. Maturity, adulthood, holding down a steady job. Maintaining interpersonal relationships professionally, socially, and romantically. Yeah. Oh, and most importantly, getting proper nutrition. Yes. I mean, yeah, when you're a kid, you can live on lemonade and Oreos and survive. I have no idea how I did that. None whatsoever. Lemonade and Oreos. Seriously. How did I do that? In any case, I have to go make breakfast. And while I'm doing that, you should all do something useful with your lives, like make a good breakfast. I mean, honestly, breakfast matters. Yes, I'm boring as fuck. Breakfast matters. Get some breakfast. Yeah, okay. I'm done. I'm out of here. Yeah. Okay then. Gonna go get changed and go home. Oh yeah, so, yeah. I'm all changed and I'm off work and I'm exhausted. So I'm just gonna go home because, yeah, It has been a long day, and it has been brutally fucking hot in that kitchen. I'm gonna say it is brutally fucking hot in the kitchen. So yeah, I'm gonna go home. Nice and cool at home. Yeah, so it's raining. It started raining the other night, and it has continued to rain. Yeah, rain has suddenly become a thing again. Yes, this is good. Hopefully it will fall on the wildfires up north and out west and kill some of those. But even if it doesn't, at least it's flushing out the smoke from the air and making the air a bit less crunchy. Yeah, the air has been crunchy. It has been ridiculously crunchy. And yeah, hard to breathe. A number of people I know with respiratory problems have really been suffering. And yeah, it's all because of the wildfires up north and out west. And so yeah, I want to talk about those wildfires. I really do. Because those are not natural. Those are not natural. I mean, wildfires can happen naturally, but those wildfires are more than just natural. They are induced. And I'm not accusing anybody of arson. No, I'm pointing out the reason, the underlying reason why the wildfires are so big, so severe, and so out of control. Okay? And we're going to talk about this just as soon as I get across the street here. Yeah. All right. Okay, so yeah. Why do we have these bloody great wildfires up north? Well, the answer is Sitka spruce. And the practice of farming Sitka spruce really close together, creating essentially a Sitka desert. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, so anyways, the timber industry has created these Sitka deserts. And they discovered that you can plant Sitka spruce very densely. I mean, we're talking 9 trees in a square meter. So a square meter, for those of you who use old-fashioned, outdated measurements, Americans, that's a yard. That's a square yard. So 9 trees in a square yard. I want you to think about 9 mature trees in a square yard of ground. That's a lot of density. And spruce trees are naturally really good at burning. So when you pack them in that close, oh, you're gonna have a wildfire. It's guaranteed. And you don't need somebody with a pack of matches to start one. All you need is a random lightning strike. And that's the thing with these massive 100,000 acre Sitka spruce farms all over the Canadian North and the Canadian West and the American West. They're perfect for wildfires. Absolutely. And they're a monoculture, which means that, yeah, ta-da, there's nothing in there to break up the monotony and say, no, we're not all going to burn. No, yeah. Now, add to this the fact that Sitka will grow anywhere, will grow densely when densely packed together, and grows ridiculously fast. And you have the perfect recipe for a very profitable tree farm. The downside of this is, in addition to the high risk of uncontrollable wildfires, also a few other issues. Oh, people honking at me. A few other issues that I'll get into in a moment. Yeah. So yeah, those issues I wanted to get into, yeah. Have you ever seen lumber made from Sitka spruce? You probably have. It's weak, it's flimsy, and it has a tendency to split, splinter, and break. But that's okay, because when you build a house out of Sitka spruce, you've already changed the name of your company 3 times before you finish building the house.
Yeah. So you're not going to have to worry about any kind of consequences following you behind when the house falls apart in 10 years. Because Sitka spruce is really shitty lumber. It is very shitty lumber. But when you're trying to squeeze maximum profit out of everything, you don't care about shitty lumber. You care about the bottom line. And the bottom line is shitty lumber equals massive profits. That's capitalism. Yay, capitalism. Giving us now a housing crisis that will self-perpetuate for the next God's only knows how many decades and generations. But that's okay. Because, well, yeah, a handful of very rich investors are getting very richer. And that's all that really fucking matters, isn't it? I mean, really, yeah.
So I'm taking a break over the course of the three-ring circus that is Will and Lisa's wedding. And the suit, as you may have noticed, makes us look like we're in a mariachi band. All we need is guitars and trumpets. And somebody to play the maracas. I think I'll be the guy playing the guitar. Yeah. Oh, God. It is a brutally hot day. So Michelle and I went to Min's, and we're just waiting for our server to take our order, and then the cook to cook our order, and then we're going to eat our order, and then we're going to pay and run. Note the pay part. Yeah, very important. Yeah. Anywho, when I say three-ring circus, I mean it's Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey all over again. The only thing we're missing is the flying Graysons high above the center ring. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the wedding. Hello, Lisa.
Hi.
Hey, Will. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen and others. And yeah, so yesterday Michelle and I were at Will and Lisa's wedding, and this morning we're gonna have tea on my balcony here. Yeah, my balcony. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, so yesterday I was at Will and Lisa's wedding, and today I'm at Summerfolk Construction putting together a folk festival. It's a process, and we've got a lot accomplished so far. So yeah, things are coming along nicely, and I'm reconnecting with old friends who I haven't seen since last year. Yeah. But yeah, we're still talking about the forest fires and the air being crunchy from the forest fires, and the Sitka spruce and the jack pine that have been planted in monocultures that end up having very significant fire potential. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And not a whole hell of a lot of fire break potential. Yeah. Yeah, so I have managed to gouge my leg. There you go. That's a nice nick, and a little damage over there. Yeah, but I'm okay. You know, it happens. Yeah, it's part and parcel of building a festival. The important part is that we're having a great time. Absolutely. Yeah, so anywho, we are still talking about the wildfires, as I've said. And yeah, many years ago, when the timber barons started tree farming aggressively, planting Sitka spruce and jack pine at densities of 9, 10, or 12 trees per square meter, in the hopes that they'd be able to make a harvest in 20 to 25 years, yeah, they got called out by the environmentalists that this is too dense. You need to be planting at a density of 1 tree per square meter, and you need to have some variety here. And you need to not be thinking in terms of
20 years down the road, but in terms of 100 years down the road. And of course the timber barons summed all this up to the press as, those environmental wackos want you to live in a cave and eat bugs. Yeah, that's how they translated, we need to think about the future. Yeah. So, as a result, the right wing now has their favorite slogan, which is just to chant over and over and over again whenever somebody suggests that maybe we should provide adequate funding for public health care. They just chant, eat the bugs, eat the bugs, eat the bugs, eat the bugs, over and over and over again. Because, well, it's like a trained seal clapping its hands, clapping its flippers for a fish. I mean, they've been trained for this shit. Yeah, and of course, the result is functioning dialogue becomes non-existent. Yeah, you cannot have functioning dialogue when the people you're trying to communicate with have a vocabulary of slogans that they just memorize and regurgitate. But the reality is, nobody wants anybody to live in a cave. Nobody wants anybody to eat bugs. All we want is some fucking responsibility, some sensibility, some reason, some logic, and some forethought. Thinking about the future, thinking about the next generation and the next generation. Thinking not just in terms of how I can make all the money, but how my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren will be able to have a functioning life. I mean, money is great. Money is a very useful tool to have. But you get to the point where there's just too fucking much of it in the hands of too few people. And yeah, it's ridiculous. It becomes a question of, well, a quest for more, based upon the motto, he who dies with the most toys wins. Which, yeah, that motto was bullshit when it came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And it's still bullshit. And unfortunately, it is bullshit that is universally accepted. And it's killing us. And if you have friends with bad lungs who are coughing and wheezing this summer, it's killing them a little faster than it's killing you. Or maybe it is killing you and you're coughing and wheezing. But hey, if you voted conservative, you voted for this shit, unfortunately. And if you voted for more power and privileges for the timber corporations and the oil companies and the mining consortiums and the private mercenary armies, etc., 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 you voted for that shit, and the banking industry, which is not Jewish, by the way. It's not, it never was. But yeah, if you voted for give them the money in the hopes that it'll trickle down to you, yeah, you brought this on yourself, but you also brought it on the rest of us. Yeah. The forest fires, the wildfires in the north and west, are a direct consequence of, yes, 50 years of untrammeled greed and bad management, and of timber barons and the press chanting over and over and over again, the environmental wackos want us to live in caves and eat bugs. Well, that's the thing, is no environmentalist has ever suggested anybody should live in caves or eat bugs. This has never been brought up. The closest we've ever come to this is literally a conservative politician, a right-winger, who suggested that worms should be ground up and fed to the homeless. Instead of giving them real food, they should just be given ground up worms, because that's all they deserve in the eyes of the right wing. And yet the right wing insists that those of us who are not in the far right are the ones who want everybody to eat bugs. No, we don't. we just want to have a world that's still livable for our grandchildren. Because, yeah, after I'm dead, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren will inherit this mess. And I want them to have a decent life. And unfortunately, the powers that be are hell-bent on making sure that there is no life for them. So yeah, that's the story. Yeah. And no, nobody wants you to eat bugs. Okay? Okay.
In the early 1400s, they had to re-roof Cambridge University's main building. When they built the roof, they planted several large stands of oak trees with the knowledge and understanding that in another 500 years, they would need to replace the roof again. And they would need these oak trees for the timber to replace the roof with. Sure enough, 500 years later, in the early to mid-20th century, they needed to replace the roof, and they had all these oak trees ready to be cut down and turned into lumber to replace the roof with. There you go. Somebody was thinking 500 years into the future. Today's timber barons are not thinking 500 years into the future. They're not even thinking 100 years into the future. They're thinking of how to maximize profit now. And they're treating the forest as something where you can smash and grab. Just smash and grab. The environmentalists have forced the timber barons, the timber executives, the timber CEOs. The environmentalists have forced them to replant. But instead of replanting with an eye to the future, they're just replanting willy-nilly, with no logic, no rationality, and with only the most superficial understanding of how trees actually grow. They've created an unsustainable problem that's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And the current forest fires are a perfect example of this. What is needed at this point is to plow massive fire breaks, a mile wide, easily a mile wide, to turn these vast swathes of farmed trees into smaller patches separated by big expanses of open ground. And then plant that open ground in mixed forest, loosely spaced, with plenty of gaps for life to exist in. And yes, plant trees that take longer to grow. Plant them. Plant trees that have a tight grain because they grow longer, they mature later, and they are perfect for producing really good timber. And yes, think in terms not of maximizing my immediate profit, but in terms of giving my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren a future resource that they can profit from and that their children can profit from. And let's manage the forests with an eye to the future, the distant future of, yes, 1,000 years down the road. 1,000 years down the road is where we need to be thinking. Not next quarter, but next millennium. Because if we don't think long term, then yeah, our descendants are going to be living in caves. And they are going to be grateful to find a few bugs to eat. That is the future that modern capitalism is laying out for us. And it is quite literally the environmentalists who are showing us a way to avoid it. I don't know how to make this easier to understand. I don't. I really don't. Now, I've digressed. I've bounced around a bit. But the reality is that we are facing a very dark future if we do not start thinking in long term. If we do not start thinking about the next 100 years, the next 1,000 years, if we don't start thinking in those terms, in 1,000 years, our descendants will look back on us with hatred, with resentment, with bitterness, and with rage, because we will have left them with nothing. There is a disturbing trend in the forestry industry now, that when an owner of a tree farm gets too old and he knows he will not be able to profit from the next crop that is harvested, he will salt the land with Roundup, lots of it, in order to make sure that nothing will grow there again, so that nobody else can profit the way that he profited. That is the most malignant, malicious approach to hypercapitalism imaginable. You're not just pulling up the ladder behind you. You're burning it. You're killing the goose that laid the golden eggs to make sure that nobody else can profit from it after you are gone. That is what modern hypercapitalism is doing. Killing the goose that lays the golden eggs to make sure that nobody else can profit from it after you're gone. That's pretty horrifying shit. And I have to say, that is the direction that modern capitalism has chosen to take. I don't know what else I can add to this. We are breathing the smoke of the hubris, arrogance, greed, and stupidity of capitalism. We are living with the consequences of the short-term thinking of capitalism. And we are watching as the world that we depend on is being rendered uninhabitable by capitalism in an insane rush. An insane rush to maximize short-term profit right now, regardless of the cost down the road. It's basically suicide. Only it's suicide that takes the next generation with it. And the next generation, and the next generation. Something has to change. Something has to change. Because this is the third summer of insane, out-of-control wildfires devastating our area from 1,000 miles away. We're breathing the smoke that was generated 1,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away. And if it's your children that are choking on this shit, you have an obligation to stand up and say, okay, enough is enough. We need to change how we treat the world around us. We need to make those changes. We cannot afford to keep going the way we have been for the last 250 years. We just can't. We just can't.